So lads, it's the big day. We do this video at the start of every single season. This is my Premier League predictions for the 2025-26 season. Last year I had an absolute stinker. If you want to go and watch the reaction to last video, make sure to watch it. Obviously I reacted to how I predicted last season and how I've done it. It was so bad. But I'm not blaming myself. Tottenham and Man United finished down below. I predicted Nottingham Forest to get relegated. This season is going to be better. We're going to be predicting it right. Well, last season I got two teams, bang on. Only two teams. Can we make it more than that? Obviously we do the points difference at the end of the season, but I love doing this video. It's good to look back on, and yeah, let's get into it. We'll obviously start on 20th, work way up to first. Oh, it's an interesting one, but let's go through it all now. So then we'll start off with 20th. We're going to speak about every place from 20th to first. Starting off in 20th, I've got Burnley. Some of the business is good. I just don't think their squad is good enough for the Premier League, and I think managerial wise I just don't think Scott Parker is the man to even have a chance of getting Burnley survival this year. They've got a couple of good players. They've got Edwards, just like Broja from Chelsea, who I particularly don't rate. That young lad in midfield, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, from Chelsea, just say Martin Dubravka. But I just think they are going to be the worst out of the three. I don't think there'll be much in between the bottom three points wise, but 20th I've got Burnley. 19th I've got Leeds United. I think it honestly could be between them two and Burnley for 19th and 20th. They've bought some players, they've got Longstaff from us, but it's exactly the same crowd of Burnley. They've signed a couple of players and stuff, but I just don't think they're going to have what it takes to survive in the Premier League, which it's shit because they're going to come up and come back down, and it's just going to be the same cycle over and over again. But I've got Leeds to go down. And the team who's done the best business out of the three who got promoted this season, I've got Sunderland in 18th, but it's a bit like Ipswich last season. They signed loads of players, a lot of young players, and it just didn't gel. They had a couple of bright sparks and stuff, but didn't work out for Ipswich. I think it'll be extremely similar to Sunderland, and I'm not just saying Sunderland will go down because I'm a Newcastle fan. It's got nothing to do with that. Looking at their squad, they have done the best business out of the teams that have got relegated, who have just been promoted. But is it going to be enough? Or are they going to gel together? Players like Luke O'Neill are good for the club. Are they good enough for the Premier League? No. Patterson in goal, is he good enough for the Premier League? No. And they've signed a lot of players who need to gel extremely quick. Like, Granit Xhaka's an amazing signing. Dingwall from Brighton I think is a really good signing, but their squad is so young coming into the Premier League with teams now in the league who have been there a long time. It's not like there's loads of yo-yo clubs in the Premier League at the minute. A lot of teams have been there for years now and have stuck with it and done really well. It's just going to be so hard for the three predicted teams to come up and stay up. But I think if any of them have got a chance, it will be Sunderland, but I think the three teams that came up are going back down. 17th I've got Brentford, and the reason being, I just look at their squad at the minute. They lost the manager, they lost the captain, they've lost the top goal scorer, and they're about to lose Wissa to potentially Newcastle. They've lost Flecken, obviously they signed Callagher, but the manager who's came in, he's got no experience in the Premier League. But I think the core of how Brentford have been over the recent years will have enough to stay up. I think they will do a lot better than the three teams that have been promoted, but I would be a little bit concerned if I was a Brentford fan. Obviously they signed Jordan Henderson, but I just don't think it'll be their year. I think survival for them will be a good enough achievement. Them being in the Premier League is amazing for them, so they just need to stick with it. And I think 17th. 16th I've got Wolves. Honestly, they could finish 17th. They really could. They could be around that bottom. Like, they had a good end last year. I think they were on like 7 wins in a row or something, but yet again they've lost one of their best players. That didn't happen last season with Pedro Neto, and they've lost Cunha. And have they really replaced him? Not really. I think, like I say, I don't think there'll be much in between Wolves and Brentford, position wise and points wise, but I think they will just have enough to stay up and do a lot better than the three promoted teams. 15th I've got Bournemouth, and I just, when watching them in pre-season and stuff in the summer series, right, I just don't think that they are the same team as what they have been the last couple of years, and they have lost a lot of players. Kirkes to Liverpool, Hoyton to Real Madrid. There will be more. I kind of think off the top of my head. Zabani, the centre-half's gone to PSG. They've lost a lot of players, and I think they will have enough to stay up. I think Ariola will get put under a lot of pressure because they've had 2 good seasons under their belt. The two recent seasons that they've had, they've been comfortably stayed up and look like a good team, beating some of the big 6 and stuff. So I just don't think it'll be their year, but they'll have enough to stay up, definitely. 14th, I've got Everton. Look, I think it's going to be quite similar to the West Ham season when they moved stadium, the 16-17 season. They done well, but stayed up, but moved stadium, and it didn't have that same vibe. Everton have got good business. They are looking to sign Jack Grealish. When I'm recording this on Sunday the 10th, so still got loads of time in the transfer window. They're in talks with Grealish, signed Dewsbury Hall. Look, I think they'll be comfortably safe. I think around 14th to probably 11th. I think there'll be nothing in it, and there never normally is. So they can finish anywhere around there. But Everton had a good end to the season last year. I really like Iliman Ndiaye. I think he's a brilliant player. Beto needs to score some more goals. Obviously, they've lost Calvert-Lewin, but I think moving to the stadium will affect them of some sort. So that's why I've got them 14th. 13th, I've got West Ham. I think it's a tricky one to call. They've only got 2 strikers at that club, and being Callum Wilson, who's just left Newcastle, right, who's very injury prone, and Fulkrug, he's very injury prone. How are they going to cope with that? They've just lost Kudus to Tottenham. It could be a bad year, but I've just got that belief that West Ham and Jared Bowen will push them a little bit on. I think last season they were quite poor and they were down in the bottom, not obviously like getting relegated, but they were 17th, 16th around that area, and I think they did finish 17th last year. If West Ham have a bad year, Graham Potter gets sacked, it's going to be a tricky one to call, but I think West Ham 13th. 12th, I've got Fulham. It's a bit of a weird one. They've not really signed anyone, but they've not really lost anyone. They've lost a couple of players, Willian, Vinicius the striker, and there was a couple of us who were left but weren't like first team goers. They've got a quite good core in that team, and I think Marco Silva can deliver another successful season. Like looking like obviously from a Newcastle's point of view, they beat us home and away last season, so they have a good team. I think Fulham 12th. I think they would take that. 11th, I've got Crystal Palace. Obviously, European football is still being discussed with them. Obviously, they won the FA Cup last year. Brilliant, unbelievable achievement for them. But they don't know what competition they're playing in. I don't think it'll matter too much on affecting the league. I think in the Europa League or the Conference League, I think they would finish around the same position in both of them, from my point of view. But I think they've got a good squad. Obviously, it's still dependent on Eze and a couple of other players. They rely on a bit like Newcastle. They rely on so many good players in their squad, like Wharton, Gahey, Eze, Mateta. If you take a couple of them players out, that's when they could struggle. But I think Crystal Palace will be okay, and I think they'll finish 11th. 10th, I've got Nottingham Forest, and they've got European football. I don't even think they know what European competition they're in. It's a mad one, but the big one for me is keeping Morgan Gibbs-White. I think, yes, they lost Elanga to us, but Morgan Gibbs-White is that piece of the puzzle that just needs to be there for Nottingham Forest to do well. And if you removed him and he went to Tottenham, I really think they could have struggled next year, because their second squad isn't as good as their first team. They haven't really got like 2 amazing players in each position. And I don't think they really have invested too much in the squad. Honestly, last season when they were in the top 4 was unbelievable to see them. Then obviously they dipped off. I think if Nottingham Forest finished 10th and you asked them that at the start of last season, you'd get top 10 in the season before that you get European football. I think they would absolutely take that. So 10th for Nottingham Forest. 9th, I've got Brighton. Honestly, like, every time we play them, I hate it, because they always beat her and they always do something against her. And Brighton's that team that are just going to do well, and you just know that. They've got a young manager, a young squad. Yes, they've still got some aging players in the squad like James Milner and Danny Welbeck, but they still turn up and they still produce the points that getting them somewhere. And they've always got that player who's coming through the squad who's young, and I think Brighton have another kind of year, so 9th. 8th, I've got Aston Villa, and I think PSR is really, really ruined them, and it's so unfair, because I think they've signed one player, was that striker from Nice, Ivory Coast lad, I can't think his name off the top of my head, but they haven't invested in the squad, and they're not allowed, which it's a bit shit. Obviously, they had Rashford and Asensio towards the end of last year. They're going to have to rely on more like Jacob Ramsey, Marlon this year, who didn't really get much game time last year with Asensio and Rashford playing. They've still got a good squad, still got a big squad in European football, but I just think they're going to just fall off a little bit in the Premier League, and I think they're going to get 8th. 7th, I've got the beloved Newcastle United, and honestly, I think 8th and 7th between us and Villa will be tight. I just think with the PSR and the Isak situation with stuff, and we've had a really bad pre-season. But Eddie Howe always knows how to do something. It showed. He kept us up, then got us Champions League. Then we had a ridiculous amount of injuries and still got us top 7. Then last year got us Champions League football with such a thin squad. He works miracles for this football club, and I think people forget that. And obviously we've still got time to sign players. Obviously we're about to sign Militao from AC Milan, but I think 7th with an okay Champions League run I really would at this stage of the season. As long as we don't go out at the start of the Champions League and do well in the league, I will be a happy man. 6th, I've got Tottenham Hotspur, and Thomas Frank came in. Obviously they won that European trophy last year and it was unbelievable to see and great for them. They sacked Ange, and I like some of their signings. I think Palhinha from Bayern's a really good signing, a player who will suit them massively. I think they've needed like that brick in midfield. Kudus, very good player. Obviously they've lost Son, and obviously Maddison with his ACL, but I think Thomas Frank will get the best out of them players. I think, yes, they might not look as entertaining, they might not look to score as many goals as what they did last season under Ange. They finished 17th, and they finished 17th for a reason, because they conceded too many goals. I think if you keep Van der Ven and Romero fit with Ndogi and Porro, and you don't have to keep taking them out because of injuries, I think they'll have quite a good year, and they're in Champions League, so it'll be interesting to see how they do. But 6th for Tottenham, and this is the prediction that could bite me in the arse. 5th, I've got Man United, and I don't know what it is, I just think they will have a good year. And it sounds mental because of how bad they have been. The signings that they've made have been very good. Cunha and Bremo and Sesko, if them three can all work together, link and play how they want, they will score goals. If they keep it tight at the back and play that system under Amorim and actually nail it down. They've had a pre-season now, they've got no European football. For me, with the money that they've spent on Cunha and Bremo and Sesko, there is no excuse. I think if they don't get top 6, Amorim should be gone, because with the squad, Bruno Fernandes and players coming through the academy and stuff, if they can't get top 6 with the money that they've spent, I think he's got to get sacked. So I think it's a big year for Man United, and I've got them in 5th. 4th, I've got Chelsea, same as last season. I predicted them in 4th last season and 4th again this season. Yes, they have made a lot of signings. Yes, they've had a lot of outgoings, but they do look good. They won that Club World Cup for a reason, and back in Champions League, and it will be an interesting year for Chelsea. I think, honestly, I think they've got that Champions League again, where they're not just playing the second team in the conference, because that's what they've done last season. They're going to have to use players a lot more. Like the likes of Parma is going to have to play in the Champions League and the league and stuff, and they're going to have extra bodies, but I think it'll be more intense this year than what it was last year for Chelsea. So I think 4th, I think Chelsea would take that. It's a bit like Newcastle. If we got a good Champions League running, 7th in the league. I think if Chelsea got a good Champions League run in 4th in the league, I think they take it. 3rd, I've got Arsenal, and look, Gyökeres is a good signing and he will score goals if you provide it. I just think if it's a bit like us, and I'm always relating to Newcastle, a couple of injuries in that team, and it's a bit dire. Like, their second squad isn't good enough to be fighting for the title. So if you do get injuries, they've got Champions League again. Obviously, they got the semi-final last year. I just think they're going to struggle. I just think they're going to not be in that like first, second run. I just can't see it. Personally, I could be extremely wrong on that. I just can't see Arsenal pushing for the title this year. 2nd, I've got Manchester City, and I think they had a good run towards the end of last season. They've had some really good business. They've got some deadwood out the club, and I think they could have a good year, and I think they will push for the title again this year. I don't think it will be as tense as it been before, being like to the final day and stuff like that. But Man City will have a good year this year, and I can't see it. And that leaves 1st place, Liverpool. They won the league last season very comfortably. No team was anywhere near how good they were in the league. And the signings that they've made, Vert, Ekitike, Frimpong, Kirkes, they've got a good squad. And obviously, do they get Isak? It's still uncertain of. We don't know, but I think Liverpool will win the league again. I think their squad just is so overpowering over any other squad. Like, they've got so many good players in positions. Obviously, yes, they've lost Nunes and a couple of other squad players, but I think Liverpool will win the league again, unfortunately, because I don't really like Liverpool, but I think they will win the league. And that's my prediction, boys. So I will see myself in 10 months' time, 9 months' time, in May. It will be an interesting one, obviously, always is. Hopefully I've not done as bad. Let me know your predictions in the comments. Where have I went really bad? Have I done anything majorly wrong? Do Sunderland stay up? Have I underestimated some of the teams in the top 6? Honestly, I don't know. That's the fun bit about this video. It's so hard to do, and it's so good to look back on. So we'll see myself back in May. But make sure to leave a like, boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would mean love if you could do so. And yes, bye-bye. I'll see myself in May, and let's see how good or bad these predictions are. NEWCASTLE! NEWCASTLE!